The Little Folk of the Flame Tree. Your Nan is a woman of spirit. That's what everyone said to Gwynnie about her Nana Fay. And while she didn't really know the meaning of all those words, Gwynnie was certain she knew exactly what they meant. Because her Nana Fay was the bestest, most fun Nan in the whole wide world, and Gwynnie adored her. At Nan's house, she never had to say please or thank you, and as for table manners, well, Nan scoffed at all that uppity-schnuppity hoo-ha, which is how Nan described all those kinds of grown-up things. While eating lunch together, Nan and Gwynnie liked to see who could talk the loudest and fastest while munching the biggest mouthful of food before bursting into fits of laughter, sending half-mashed globs of noodles and veggies spraying everywhere. A day with Nana Fay was always fun, and everything about her, from the wild shock of bright red hair bursting from her head in every which way, to her clear blue eyes sparkling with mischief, made Gwynnie laugh. In fact, the only time Nan was ever serious was when she spoke of the little folk. That's how Nan described the fairies and elves and gnomes and all those kinds of child things. Except Nan's little folk were very old and very real, and they came from the other side of the world where Nan grew up. In a quiet and mysterious voice, Nana Fay told Gwynnie stories of greedy, grumpy gnomes gobbling up all the ripe strawberries from her family's veggie patch, as well as the many nights she spent dancing the forest with her elven friends when she was just a wee girl. "And they're here too, my lass," Nan whispered. "Oh, some people say they only live on the other side of the world, but that's a load of uppity-schnuppity hoo-ha, because we've seen 'em right here on All Hallows Eve, haven't we?" According to Nana Fay, that was the real name for Halloween, which was the best time of year to catch a glimpse of the little folk as they made merry mischief here, there, and everywhere, and especially under the big old flame tree in Nan's backyard. Nan loved that old flame tree. She said it reminded her of home by dropping its leaves on All Hallows Eve, and its blazing red coat of flowers helped her remember all the red-headed lasses and lads she once knew. And of course, it was the home of the flame fairies. One day, Gwynnie had asked Dad about the flame fairies, and he just laughed and said, "Oh, sounds like a load of polly-wolly-woo-blah to me," which is mostly how he described Nan's stories. But this didn't bother Gwynnie at all. She liked the sound of polly-wolly-woo-blah and little folk, and especially flame fairies, and she couldn't wait for mid-spring when the star-shaped leaves of the flame tree began to fall, and her and Nan prepared for All Hallows Eve. First, they baked tiny, fairy-sized cakes with dustings of icing sugar on top. Next, they made masks, loud, colourful creations with sparkling glitter and dazzling feathers that disguised them from the little folk. For even Gwynnie knew, so long as a fairy did not know your name, you were safe from their spells. And then, upon dusk at All Hallows Eve, disguised by their masks, Nan and Gwynnie carefully laid stones in a large, neat circle just beyond the flame tree, gently placing their gift of fairy cakes inside. Finally, as the dark night slowly crept up and around them, hidden behind the thick trunk of the flame tree, they listened and watched and waited. And while, so far, Gwynnie hadn't exactly stayed awake long enough to see a flame fairy with her own eyes, the next morning she always found leftover crumbs in the fairy ring, and she was sure, this year, as Halloween once again crept closer, she would see it all.